Hello everyone, I'm Don Pratt, host of a show here on Rogers TV, giving you a perspective of policing your community. Welcome to Policing York Region. A little later on in the show, we're going to be talking to Detective Sergeant Baichu about a trend of break and enters in the region. And right now, we have Inspector Stu Betts from Strategic Services. I got through the word. Welcome to the show, Stu.
Thank you very much.
First of all, can you tell us a bit, Strategic Services Bureau, what is that within YRP?
So the Strategic Services Bureau works out of Executive Services. We report to the chief, and our portion of the organization is responsible for setting strategic direction through planning, risk management activities, the procedures and the policies that the organization and the members follow. We also engage in audits to ensure that we are in fact doing what we say we're doing and that we're doing a great job. We've recently introduced an exciting program that I hope we'll have an opportunity to talk about in the future, and that's with regard to business intelligence. Yeah,
we've had a few brief discussions on that, and I'm looking forward to sometime this summer getting you back on the show to chat about that.
Me as well.
So the purpose for today's show, we wanted to talk a bit about sector policing. I've been hearing the term, and I'm still a little gray as just what can you explain what sector policing is?
Absolutely. So sector policing for York Region means it means a new model of policing. We've moved away from the traditional small patrol zones. So York Region was previously divided into 77 small patrol zones where we had one officer per patrol zone, and they responded to the calls within their zone. 2012, we decided to have a look at whether or not that was the best approach for providing policing services to York Region and throughout the region. At that time, we did some analysis, and we looked at the calls for service, the demands that the public had for policing within the region, and we determined that it may not, in fact, be the most effective way to provide policing services throughout the region. We put together a committee of officers ranging from constables to superintendents to review how we could more effectively police York Region, how we could modernize how we police York Region. What that resulted in was a recommendation that we collapse the 77 patrol zones into 23 sectors. Now what a sector is a larger patrol area, and it's intended to provide a team-based approach to policing. Instead of having one officer for one particular geographic location, we may have 3 or 4 depending on how we've decided to group that area, that geographic area. And there was a number of reasons for why we had done that, and we did roll that out as a pilot within the city of Markham and the town of Whitchurch-Stouffville as a pilot. So we recently completed that pilot program. It was a resounding success.
So you've actually seen it in action now.
We have seen it in action, and it is coming to a region near you. It's in fact, it's fully in place in the city of Markham and Whitchurch-Stouffville. We just on February 28th went live out of one district. So and our number 4 district. So 4 district being the city of Vaughan, and 1 district being everything from King City, town of Aurora, the town of East Gwillimbury.
So you used the Markham area as kind of your pilot to see, iron out all the bugs, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. And to validate whether or not what we wanted to accomplish was accomplished. And we had a number of goals that we wanted to achieve, and chief among them was we needed to more strategically manage the deployment of our resources. We needed to change how we put our officers on the road. We needed to make sure that we have the maximum number of officers on the road when the calls for service and the demand for service are highest.
Yeah, of course, that makes sense.
And that resulted in a significant change to how we start our police officers. As you might be aware, we typically have deployed our officers at 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. and then 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. The same number of officers work 12-hour shifts regardless of the demands for service. What our data shows and what we've based our direction on is the demands for service are actually greatest from 10 a.m. until midnight. So we've turned things on their head within the policing world, and we've actually introduced additional officers to start earlier in the day. So we now have a deployment model that sees us start at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 12 p.m., 3 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m.
So different starting times.
Absolutely,
shifts.
And it seems intuitive.
That actually sounds a bit more fluid too on the workflow, right?
Absolutely, and it tracks it tracks the calls for service, the demands for service. The greatest demands for service from the public come to York Regional Police between 10 a.m. and midnight.
Right.
So it makes sense that we deploy our resources more strategically to be available between 10 a.m. and midnight.
Sure.
In this case, up to including 3 a.m. And then, of course, we always have officers on the road 24 hours a day.
Yeah, it's not like there's never officers on the road. You're merely suggesting that you have more when the need is higher.
Right. The great thing about the particular project is it didn't really result in any additional staffing. We just made sure that the platoon levels were topped up to the desired numbers that they were supposed to have been.
Right.
And for reasons that happen throughout the course of business, whether an officer's off sick, whether an officer's on training, sometimes that level will go below our desired level. So we made sure that we have the right number of officers on the road at the right time to accomplish a number of things.
And that's fair enough said. I mean, we do need to acknowledge that, you may have so many officers on a platoon or on a shift. Some of them somebody could be calling in sick. Somebody could be off on training, off on holidays, what have you.
Absolutely.
So you still have to work within your means to keep those numbers to a certain level, I'm sure.
You're right. And that's just the first goal, is
Right.
strategically manage our resources. Our second goal was to increase our community presence. And that stands to reason that if we put the right number of officers on the road at the right time, the community is going to see more officers when they expect to see them.
Right.
So that right off the bat increases our community presence.
Yes.
And it allows
that
us...
whole community awareness piece.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And that's what the community's expected from us.
Sure.
Throughout any of our business planning processes, they want to see more police on the street, and we're able to provide that. But it also allows us to balance officer workload. By having the right number of officers at the right time, we also look to reduce the length of time that a citizen has to wait to see an officer to respond to their call for
Response
service.
time. Yeah.
So that was another goal that we sought to achieve, and in fact our results show that we did and were able to achieve that in 5 district. So that's why we're rolling this out to the region. We also wanted to mitigate risk by increasing our supervision level on the roads.
Right.
So we introduced additional supervisors on the front line who can provide that immediate oversight to those calls for service when they're happening.
Right. That makes perfect sense, right? You're increasing the...
Absolutely. And I think that's when we lay it out, it all makes perfect sense in that regard, and we wanted to include that accountability and that oversight. We introduced some mechanisms for which we could track that accountability and oversight, and have our supervisors engaged in the most high risk of calls for service, and document what they're doing to help mitigate risk on each one of those calls.
Right. So when we were talking about leading into the change, some of the factors that brought you there, I suppose. What can we talk about with those?
Well, there was we're always interested in what the public has to provide for us for feedback. And one of the areas my portion of the organization is involved with is surveying the community. We're seeking input from the community at all times, whether it be through community groups, whether it be through the business planning process.
Yeah, we did see that, and we talked about that, and we'll be talking about it on future shows, the business planning process. They're pretty thorough. They get out into the community. They engage the community, like the business leaders at YRP.
Yes.
They're always looking for public input.
Right.
They do that consultation process.
And that was a big portion of what informed this decision. Right. We also needed to do a real hard look at how policing is conducted, whether it's the traditional 12-hour shifts, same number of officers all throughout the 24-hour period, or was it time to modernize, become a little bit more efficient and a little more effective with the resources we have? We know we can't do more with less, but what we do know is we can do better with what we have.
Sure.
And we believe that we've managed to do better with what we have.
And so really looking for efficiencies then, right?
We have found those efficiencies in how we're deploying, and we're very excited that just at the end of February, we were able to roll this into our, as I said, our 1 district station and our 4 district station. At the beginning of April, we will introduce it to the remaining 2 districts, that being in the Richmond Hill area, 2 district, and here in Georgina, 3 district.
As well, up in 3 district.
Absolutely.
So I guess essentially by the end of 2017, this will have been fully rolled out. And
By April 11th, it will be completely done. It will be
we're
rolled
there.
out. And what's really exciting is that it's not just a program that we walk away from and we don't ensure that it's actually providing the results that we want. As I mentioned earlier, we've introduced some business intelligence tools that will allow us to monitor those key performance indicators that we put in place to tell us whether we're on a successful model or not. And we would expect the community, and the community would expect us to be constantly measuring the success of this particular program.
And as you were saying when we first came on, that's the role of your team, right? Is you're always looking at it.
Right.
You're always making sure that that things are going the way that you want them to go.
Yeah.
And always looking for ways to improve on them, right?
Absolutely. And that's a big portion of what we do. It's being responsive to the demands for service, and having that open mind that says just because it's how we've always done things doesn't mean it's the best way to do things.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us are business people, and we do. We get stuck in that pattern of this is the way we've always done it. Why should we change it?
Right.
You know, hats off to your team for saying, hey, maybe there's a different way we can go about this.
Yeah. And hats off really to the men and women who we brought together from various areas of the organization, an awful lot of them from the front line, and we asked for their input on how would they manage our resources.
Fantastic. Stu, thank you so much for being on the show.
Excellent.
Look forward to seeing you this summer.
Great. Thank you.
Folks, that wraps up this segment. We'll be right back after this.
York Regional Police is investigating a number of recent residential break-and-enters where it appears the thieves are actually going into the house through unlocked garage doors. This isn't the outside door, this is the door that leads from the garage into the house. It appears though a lot of people leave that door open, and thieves know that. They're accessing the garage by either smashing the external garage door to get into the garage, then access the house, or they're getting into cars, taking that automatic garage door opener, opening the door, getting into that unlocked door and into the house and stealing items, including jewelry and electronics. I want to remind everybody to make sure you have that door locked. It's going to help prevent thieves from getting into your house and stealing your items.
Thank you for that short message from YRP. And from the Criminal Investigations Bureau, I have Detective Sergeant Sherwin Baichu. Sherwin, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. And you're part of a reasonably new team within YRP. We were talking about it ahead of the show.
Yes. I manage a new team that's just started.
Okay.
It's a project team that investigates break-and-enters.
Okay.
The purpose of the break-and-enter team is to conduct thorough criminal investigations into individuals that are committing residential break-and-enters across the Greater Toronto area,
Right.
specifically the City of Vaughan, City of Markham,
Right.
and the town of Richmond Hill.
Right. So learning that there's actually been a team put together specific to break-and-enters, I take it there's quite an issue then?
There's an issue. Break-and-enters are happening in the region.
Right.
The goal of this team is to reduce the amount of break-and-enters that we're receiving.
Right.
In 2016, the team arrested over 25 people for committing break-and-enters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and now in 2017, up till today, the team has arrested 10 people this year for committing break-and-enters.
Wow.
Yeah, so in the last 2 months, we've had over 200 break-and-enters that have occurred throughout the South End.
Right.
And that's a big number.
That's a pretty significant number.
It's a significant number, and that's why
Right.
this team was formulated, so they can target these break-and-enters.
Yes.
And have successful outcomes at the end of the investigation.
Right. Right.
So there's different types of break-and-enters that are occurring.
Okay.
There's different types of groups that are out there that are doing break-and-enters. These people are not working together.
Right.
2 or 3 people would come together, and they would drive to our region from another region and commit a break-and-enter.
So these are intended.
These are intended.
These are planned.
Yes, they are planned. You would get 2 to 3 people. They would come across our region from, we'll say, one of the other regions. They would come into the south end of York region,
Right.
which would be the City of Markham, Vaughan, or
Okay.
the town of Richmond Hill. They would find a neighborhood that would be conducive for an entry for them,
Right.
and they would do that entry. and then they may do another one, and then they would leave.
Right.
These types of groups, they do specific types of entries. Each group does their own type. They have their own style of entry.
Yeah.
You know, one group that was investigated, they would do front door entries.
Right.
They would force their way in through the front door by either kicking it or
Okay.
kneeing it in or
Yeah, they're
elbowing
breaching
it.
the front door in one form. Yep.
And once inside, they would commit their break and enter, right?
Right.
They would steal what they wanted to and leave.
Yep.
Another group would go around the back of the house. They would pry a window, break a patio door.
Maybe less
and get
likely
in.
to be seen.
Concealment.
At least they're hoping,
Yes.
right?
So their approach on the residents is probably the best way. So I've given you the type of entries.
Yes.
Their actual approach on the residents, the two or more people, when they arrive in the neighborhood that they've decided they're going to target, they'd park on the street, and one or two persons would get out of the car,
Right.
and they would find a resident that they were looking for. They'd be looking for residences with no vehicles in the driveway,
Okay.
a house that looks unoccupied, that there's nobody there, that they're gone for the day.
So they're looking for the best opportunity, I suppose?
Easy opportunity.
Easy opportunity. Right.
Break and enters,
Yeah.
unfortunately, the people who are victim to the break and enters are target of opportunity.
That's horrible.
That's all it is, target
Wow.
opportunity for these people.
Wow.
They go in, they grab quick, easy, accessible items, and they leave the residence.
Wow. So really, homeowner comes home and that's when it's learned that the house has been broken into.
Yes, that's one way.
Right.
Another way, which is the ones that we rely on a lot, is neighbors.
Right.
Community,
Good.
observing break and enters
Yeah.
occurring, observing suspicious behavior in the street, observing suspicious behavior at their neighbor's house.
Sure. Yeah, we remind people, be vigilant in your own neighborhood, right?
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of that.
Absolutely.
Neighborhoods, people in their community looking after each other.
Yeah.
It's how we solve these crimes.
Yeah, I can tell you in our own neighborhood a few years ago. It's been some time now. They called it opportunity thefts, where it was just groups of people that were walking down the street pulling on door handles. Lots of people got targeted with it, but as a community, we were all aware of it. We talked about it, and we made sure that we kept the police informed. Right.
Right, and you make it harder
Yeah.
for these
Yeah.
criminals
Yes.
to make you a victim of crime.
Yes.
You make it harder. You want to make your residents a harder target.
Yes,
So because
right.
these people, when they're coming into our neighborhoods and they're coming into our communities,
Yes.
they're looking at the residents as a whole. When they're choosing their target, they're looking for the drawn blinds in the house. They're looking for the
Right.
lights off in the house.
Right.
No vehicles in the driveways. No surveillance cameras on the home. No obvious exterior alarms.
Right.
Unkept properties. Summertime, unkept lawns. Wintertime, not shoveled driveways.
A pile of newspapers on the front doorstep.
I was just getting to that.
Right? Yeah. No, we talked on an earlier show through one of your crime prevention officers about some of the things that you can do to make your home, I suppose, less attractive. It only makes sense if somebody has an option A or B and one of them seems more favorable, then that is going to be the target.
Why make
isn't
it easy?
Yeah. Yeah. So make it tough on them.
Make it tough on them. Spend 5 minutes, go outside, talk to your neighbors.
Yeah.
Because when you talk to your neighbors and you see your surroundings of where you live, when you do come home, you'll notice something suspicious, something
Absolutely.
out of place,
Absolutely.
right? Like those are key things. Another key message I'd like to get across is the communities that are being subjected to this trend of break and enters, their valuables, their jewelry, and their money. Large quantity of money should be kept in the bank. It's the safest place for it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and that's an old saying, right? Like keep the valuables locked up, keep the money in the bank. You leave it out. It opens the potential.
Right. When these guys are in the house, they're going to the master bedroom.
Yeah.
When they're into the master bedroom, they're rifling through the closet,
Yep.
under the bed, in the dresser,
All those places that we all think it's safest to
behind
keep.
picture frames.
Yes.
And they're taking your jewelry, they're taking your money, they're taking electronics, like the iPad, the smartphones,
Right.
and anything that's easily portable.
Right.
Put in a backpack, and they're out the door. They're gone.
That's incredible. Yeah, they can, and they can do it. I'm sure they do it in short order, right? It's not like they're hanging around.
No, a break and enter is occurring in 4 minutes.
Wow.
That includes knocking on the door.
Wow.
They'll be knocking on your door, knock, knock, knock. They'll be looking into the windows. Nobody answers the door. Then they're going to force their way in through that front door.
Right. So some of what your team is doing then to, to lessen the likelihood of break and enters throughout the region then.
The team will identify similar modes of entry. They would identify style of rifling through a home with the help of an analyst, and then they would be investigating this particular crime with us outside agencies' assistance as well. So our sister counterparts and brother counterparts in Peel and Toronto, Halton,
Right.
Durham.
Yeah.
We're always
Well, I
sharing
guess you need
information
to,
with
yeah,
them.
you're saying that they're coming in from other regions, so it makes sense. You're going to be sharing information across our regional borders, right?
Absolutely. That's how we're solving these crimes.
Right.
The best thing people can do, though, is be observant
Right.
in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
And if they do have security systems, and if they do have video of the inside or the exterior of the residence, this is important to let the police know that they have it.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like these videos will capture faces. These videos
Yeah.
will capture vehicles,
Yeah.
license plate numbers.
Yeah, we were talking on a recent show about just the modernizations, right?
Yes.
Technology's come a long ways. Video cameras in the past were a fuzzy image of somebody wearing a black jacket.
Yes.
They're pretty attuned to detail now, right? And I'm sure you'll find that helpful on your end.
Yeah, there's high resolution cameras, and they pick up excellent detail.
And that too, if you do have home security or a home automation system like a camera system, make sure it works, make sure it's in good repair.
Yes, 100%.
Right? I mean, we have heard of that. I heard of a business, it wasn't so recently, but a business that had been broken into, and there was a camera above the door, and when they asked for the tape, well, it hasn't actually been working for a while. We haven't replaced the DVR yet. A bit of a loss for the business, right?
That happens. That happens. Some of the things that people need to do when they're planning to leave their home for a vacation is to let someone know. Let a neighbor know that they're leaving on vacation. Have them pick up the newspapers.
Yes.
Have them pick up the mail.
Right.
Depending time of year, shovel the driveway,
Yeah.
cut the lawn,
Yeah.
or hire a service to do it.
Yeah. Now, York Regional Police has, I believe there's a link to, is it SEPTED?
Yes,
Crime prevention through environmental design.
that is correct.
I mean, we can remind the viewers too that if yrp.ca, they can probably find the links or the connections to that
Yes,
that
so
program.
another thing with the www.yrp.ca,
Yeah.
that site will also help you if you're interested in, which is another one of the things I like talking to people about, is the Neighborhood Watch.
Yes.
Right? Neighborhood Watch is a program that is supported by the police
Yeah.
and maintained by the community.
Yeah, no, and I understand that the Neighborhood Watch is, it's kind of being resurrected. I hadn't heard a whole lot about it.
As a kid,
for
I
a few
remember
years.
it all the time.
Yeah, there was actually a few different programs that have kind of gone by the wayside, but I understand Neighborhood Watch is coming back in.
Yes.
And we'll actually, it's a good point. We'll bring that in on another show because it has great value in the communities in just in what we're talking about. Making sure you know your neighborhood, because like you said, when you're driving home, if you know your neighborhood well, it's easy to notice when something's out of place.
I agree.
Right. So how long have you been involved with the Break and Enter project? And as part of that, you're in the Criminal Investigation Bureau, right?
Yes. So I've been recently assigned as of August to the Break and Enter team and to District Criminal Investigation Bureau.
Right.
We investigate all properties against crime.
Right.
And we investigate the break and enters.
Okay, so you're this task force or this Break and Enter project team, they're going to be working closely aligned to the CIB units then, right?
Yes, actually, the break and enter team itself is comprised of members from 5 District, which is the city of Markham,
Right.
from the city of Vaughan, and the town of Richmond Hill. I have officers from all those divisions investigating it together as a team.
I'm just kind of curious, how large of a team is this?
It's 9 officers.
Oh, so it's a substantial size team then?
Yes, it is.
Right? It's great to see us out there and doing it and tackling it. It's a shame that we have to. But the one thing that I'm fortunate to say on this show a lot is that it's good to see that YRP is always ahead of the curve. Right? They see that the need and they take it from there, right? So thank you very much for being on the show. It's a great piece of information. Folks, this wraps up another episode of Policing York Region. For more information on the show, rogerstv.com. For more information on YRP, it's yrp.ca. Been great having you. Look forward to seeing you again.